This is the Chasing Tomorrow podcast with Joe Gagnon. We bring you captivating conversations that will inspire all of us to go after our own version of a high-performance life. All right, welcome to the Chasing Tomorrow podcast. I have a fun episode today. We have with us Lindsay Nelson. Lindsay is a far better runner than I am, but that's probably not hard to do either. She's had the journey of great success early in her life, some struggles along the way, back at it again. I think probably a story many of us have. Fun to be talking during the Olympics because she did go to the Olympic trials, which is always a fun experience to talk about. And I think the cool thing of Lindsay's story, as I was thinking about sort of prepping for this, is if life is a struggle, then how do we embrace that and continue to sort of make our own personal progress, sort of accept what happens and don't let it be in the way. And I think Lindsay's learned a lot about how to overcome some really serious struggles, but not just like missed my personal best. But it's been fun to sort of watch you along the way and get you on the podcast. And let's talk all about Lindsay. So how are you today, Lindsay?
I'm doing good, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, what a pleasure. Some people probably actually don't know you. So maybe if you could just even start with where did you grow up? When did you start to love running? How did that all develop? Where did it lead you?
Originally from Phoenix, Arizona. I live in Flagstaff now. I started running when I was 9 years old because both my parents were runners. They both ran in high school, and like my dad did community college. My mom ran in junior college, and like I did soccer. Like I think probably like all kids around like 8 or 9 years old, and they noticed I wasn't getting tired running up and down the soccer field. So like maybe you should do running. So my elementary school, one of the PE teachers had a running club team. So I joined that when I was 9. And then I started off like with, I guess, the shorter distances, like the 200, 400, and then gradually worked my way up to the longer distances. So like by 6th grade, I was running the 1,500, 3,000, and middle school ended up doing like the furthest distance in middle school is a mile. And then eventually in high school, cross country is a 5K, 2 mile, 800, 4x8. And then it's funny, my coach when I was like 9 actually was my high school coach. So I've known him since I was 9 years old. And then with him, I was 11-time state champ in Arizona.
That must have been fun.
It was awesome. Yes. I helped out. We had a good team. We went to Nike Nationals. So we were one of the better teams in the country for cross country. Yeah, we placed 13th there. I was All-American in that race. I think I was like 18th. So, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then I went to Arizona State after. It was all conference, all region, have some of the like all-time performances at ASU in the 10K and the 5K, and I think the DMR, which is the distance medley relay. And then continue to run post-collegiate. I did have 2 kids. My daughter had her at like 24, so like kind of in the middle of like, I guess, people's like peak trying to start ramping up post-collegiate. I had a lot of complications with her. I had preeclampsia. She had to be born early. And then coming back after kids was more of a challenge with injuries and a lot of hip stuff, joint problems. So it took about like almost a year or more to recover from each pregnancy for both children. And then ended up after my son was born, did the Twin Cities to qualify for the Olympic trials for 2020. And he was like about 2 years old. And yeah, so a lot more.
Yeah, so as you went through that, so you had a lot of good results. It's also interesting. We should almost talk about Arizona. I think sometimes people don't realize how important Arizona is in the running scene in the country. Some of the best athletes come out of Arizona. You think, wow, it's a hot place. How the heck do you train when it's 110 degrees?
Yeah, it's not easy. Like I know there's Desi who ran at Arizona State, and then Amy Craig now. She ran there as well. So, and then Shelby Houlihan's from Arizona State. So we did have a good distance program at Arizona State. They went to nationals, I think 13 years in a row. I know they've been kind of in a slump since coaching changes. And like, I don't think they've gone to nationals since my senior year for cross country. But they were a powerhouse for a while because they were like 4th at cross country nationals, the one indoor and outdoor track national titles.
Yeah, it's also interesting. And watching the Olympics this year, there's a lot of the international runners actually go to school in the United States and run for in our college system, NCAA system, good coaching, good facilities, good competitors, and then they go back and run for their home country. Sort of wonder if the American system isn't really sort of creating a lot of the rise in level of running athletics globally as a result. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it does help. Like, I think for them, like, I think if they're coming from an African country, like, to get education and like to go back and support their families. Like, I know Sally Kipiego, I believe ran a UTEP and she was nursing. So she wanted to, like, she did obviously very well running wise, and then go back and help the people from her country to be able to take care of them and her family. It's a good way to kind of get out of there and help come back
Yeah.
and help as where
It's
they can.
interesting. Yeah, I know. It's just one of the elements that, again, we don't think that much about, but we've built such a so comprehensive system. They always say, like, actually running the Olympic trials in the US is just about as hard as the Olympics. I don't know what your experience was like running with all of the girls at the trial, but they're pretty fast.
Yeah, it was fast. I did Atlanta in 2020, so it was so windy and terrible there. And it was really hilly, and that was right before the world shut down. But that was a hard race because I believe half the field dropped out, and there was like just because the conditions where it was not ideal for racing that hard. If we
Mm.
started like earlier in the morning, because NBC dictates when you start, it wouldn't have been windy because I know that they protest about Orlando starting earlier because the heat and humidity it's unsafe.
Yeah.
But like LA was an issue because a lot of people had heat exhaustion in that race.
Hard race is harder, huh?
I
Uh,
know they didn't need to make it harder than it already is.
I know. And then, so now you're up in Flagstaff, which is really one of the sort of running and outdoors capitals of the country. And you're up at altitude, like over 7,000 feet, I believe.
Mhm. Yes.
How has it been training in Flagstaff for you?
I love it. I love that we don't have to, the heat is
Mm.
huge. Like in Phoenix in the summer, if you're not running by 5 a.m., it's miserable. So at
Yeah.
least like here, you can kind of run more whenever. And I guess like the hardest thing is like speed training and altitude is the hardest, but you can drop down. Like a lot of people drop down to Camp Verde and run
Mm.
there. It's like about 4,000 feet of elevation. And then recovery is a little bit harder, but you just have to be smart with that. That's like kind of only things. But I love like you got all the trails. Like where I live, I have like a trailhead a mile away that gets you up into the mountains. You got the urban trail right behind where we live. And like there's talk about a public track being put in by the field by my house. So that'd be
Oh,
awesome. So we'll
that'd
see
be
about that.
fun. Yeah. And so it's going back again. So you're a successful high school runner, college runner, running, and then you have the challenges with having children. Do you think there was any connection to the way that you were pushing your body and having children? Is there anything related to that, or was just some underlying issues that you were having that you didn't know and only showed up then?
Well, the issues I had during pregnancy are related to pregnancy. Like the preeclampsia is pregnancy induced like hypertension. Like, so my blood pressure is really high. And like the only way to fix that is to give birth. Because like with my daughter, like I had my blood pressure was like stroke seizure level high and my organs were
Mm.
failing. So the solutions is to give birth. Is just my body does not like being pregnant. So I had struggle and like I had severe vomiting with both children to the point like I take a sip of water and I throw that up. I lost weight with them. So it's like I think it took a while to get back because I was so behind on nutrients since I couldn't eat or drink anything for like 9 months. So it was brutal, but obviously worth it because they're here now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. That's good. We're happy they're here. Uh,
Yeah. So
And usually running is like one of those places we go to feel good and enjoy, and you weren't really able to do that. Or was that the case?
I tried running with my daughter, but if I wasn't like eating a whole lot, I probably shouldn't be running. And then with my son, I tried, but I had such severe pain every time I ran with him. I just stopped because he sat lower than my daughter, and then he ended up like just tearing all my abdominal muscles, just how the position he was in. So I walked a lot with him.
Sounds like it's like becoming an ultra marathoner for 9 months, huh?
Basically, yes.
Every day, your 100-mile race is here. It's just in a different form.
It's just kind of surviving for 9 months is the best
Mm.
way.
And so you get through And you also have some other challenges going on. How was running showing up in your life? And did you look forward to getting back to running, especially because you're a fast runner? I mean, I think you even set maybe a 50K record this past year. You've had some good success, but what was it like after having the kids to get back at it again?
Well, took a while. It took about like a year or so each time because of injuries. My hips, I had a lot of SI joint problems, but I was determined to get back and fought. And it was a lot more challenging because my son didn't sleep for the first 2 years of his life. So I didn't sleep for 2 years.
Oh.
And this was during the trials build up as well. But I don't know. It's like, I think it's good to have some adversity in your life, but
Hmm.
like not to the point where it's like overwhelming. But it's like you're like going out for a run. It's like it's kind of like your own little escape from everything. It's like your own world for a minute. No one needs you at this moment. It's like I think it's good like mental health to just be able to be out there for like an hour or more. Like I had help up here from Trina Painter, who was a great runner back in the day. And she understood like when her daughters were young, she's like, if I just have an hour, it's
Hmm.
like does wonders. Like I'm a better person being able to be out there. And it's nice, like your kids, like with the finish line, they don't care what place you get or your time. They're just happy that to see you run and pass the finish line. Or like if you have a bad workout, like I have 1,000 other things to do. I can't just dwell on one workout and move on to the next. So it's like I think you prioritize, which is important because some people who like if they only have to go for a run the entire day, they put it off, put it off, put it off. I'm like, I don't have time for that. Like you have to get up, go for a run. I have a full-time job. I have to get the kids ready for school, take
Hmm.
them to all their stuff on top of
Right.
it. So it's like it's a good way to you put what's important for you. So instead of laying around all day and eventually getting to it.
Yeah, I guess that's the old saying is the busiest person is the most effective person. So in that way, you are figuring it out because you have to. And when you have a lot
Mhm.
of just available time, maybe we're not as effective as we could be.
Yeah.
So you get back to running and do you have these big aspirations still in the running world? Like what's the I don't know, the gold ring or the motivation now? Because you're saying the kids don't care if you finish in 2.5 hours or 4.5 hours in the marathon. The Lindsay cares a little bit, right? So like what's
Lindsay, I do care. Yeah. Well, I still, unfortunately, I didn't qualify for the four trials, but I'll try again in 2028. But so I want to do that. I don't know. I just want to try to reach my best potential that I can in whatever race I do. Like
Mhm.
I'm not a big fan of like 5K, 10K. It's too short. I don't like doing that foot speed. I might test the waters with longer distances. Like I'm gonna do JFK 50
Yeah.
mile November. So like I did a 50K that went really well with like 8 weeks of training. So like to see what I can push my body to. I know Pete wants to maybe have me do 100 mile eventually
Yeah.
because of the dark side.
I know, yeah, the people like him who we're talking about Pete Kostelnick, who has been a frequent guest on the program, who his short runs can sometimes be 30 miles long. So we're always like, his Strava is sort of, really? You did that? It was remarkable throughout listening to his stories. But yeah, he likes the long distances. He's good at it, that's for sure.
No, he becomes a machine and just is like, I don't know how he does it, but he does. So
Very few incidences. Every once in a while, he's got his moments, I guess. Were you there during Badwater this year?
I was not. I was with him during the Nolly 135. His
Oh,
sister was with him for Badwater.
yeah, big year he's got coming up here. But back to you. One of the things I liked, I read that, I don't know, is this truly your favorite quote? They whispered to her, "You cannot withstand the storm." She whispered back, "I am the storm."
Yes, I think that's a good quote. Like, as much because I've had people told me, like, oh, after kids, you're not going to be the same runner. I'm actually faster after having kids. Or like, I've been diagnosed with like major depressive disorder. People's like, oh, if you're depressed, you can't do it. I'm like, yes, I can. Like, and like, I've had multiple blood clots, DVTs in my arm, and people's like, oh, it's like you can't run because of these. I'm like, yes, I can. I'm like, and I just use like examples like Michael Phelps had severe depression and he got through it and came back in Rio and did what Michael Phelps does and wins. And then Serena Williams had a lot of blood clot issues, and she's still one of the best tennis players in the world. So it's like, they can do it, I can. I know I'm not like the world's best, but you will find the way to do what you love at the end of the day.
Yeah, you're the best version of Lindsay Nelson you can be when you
Yes.
lean into that, right? That's I think what we're all trying to figure out. You know, even if you're the best Olympic athlete in the world, there's only a short period of time when you're the fastest you'll ever be. So the rest of the time you're going slower.
Yes.
So we got to sort of come to grips with that. The speed is amazing, and it's fun to see that we could get ourselves there. And it's not trying to make an excuse that we redefine the objective. But I think the real key is what you're working on, which is that this back to this point that the struggle is our life. That's what I think the Buddha would say, is that we suffer isn't pain, right? It's a mindset of what's happening. And acceptance is part of the pathway past that. And so you've had enough instances of that to have to work through. And if we don't try and conquer those demons, then where does that leave us? Right?
Yeah.
So what's been your technique, your approach? I often think about like how is it that we pull ourselves up from the bootstraps? What makes you want to do that?
I don't know. I've been through a lot of different things throughout my life, and I don't know, I just somehow just keep managing to push through it all. But now it's like, obviously have two kids to keep fighting for
Hmm.
mental health and my actual physical health. Like, I need to be there for them.
Yep.
So there are a lot to keep me going. Peyton and Cedar, my two kids. So, and obviously I want to try to be the best I can be for myself, even with all the garbage I've gone through. So hasn't been easy at times, but I try to push forward best I
Yeah.
can.
Do you think that I think it was brave of you and others like you to share the struggles we have or you have that are real. And sometimes we try not to say anything about it because, well, either we just don't want to or we think no one cares to be of interest. But maybe it's better if we talk about it more and accept openly and honestly our circumstance, right? And so that if you found the more you embrace the struggle, the better the potential of getting out of it.
Hmm. Yeah, I know I used to be probably well just suffering in silence and not letting people know, but over the past like few years, I've been more open about what I'm going through. Like, Keats helped a lot with a lot of things I've gone through mentally, especially. Life wasn't easy for a bit, but yeah, no, it's just, I think it's better to verbalize instead of suffering in silence. Like, I seen a counselor for things, so it's okay to not be okay. I think people need to know that.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, right? What is reality anyway? I mean, if that's what the reality is, then is there any benefit to denying it, right?
Yeah.
What were we taught? Maybe if you lived through the Depression, which most people don't even know what that is anymore, back in the late 20s, early 30s,
Yeah.
maybe that's which is just suffer in silence kind of thing. But it is a bit different now. It doesn't mean we don't still have issues,
Yeah. Everyone has their
right?
battles.
Yeah, but what is it that we do with it, and how do we place that energy? And I think when we embrace it, it feels even just watching sort of like, I don't know, you're smiling in many of your races that you're running, the pictures I see. So you must be getting to a good place with that.
Yeah.
What's your training like now? What do you,
When I start ramping really up, I'll be doing over 100-mile weeks,
oh,
big long runs. I think before the 50K, I did like 28 miles was my longest long
mhm.
run. And I split like a 310, I think, marathon in that training run. Casual Boston qualifier at 7,000 feet.
Nice. I like that.
So mine is like, I can only double so many days out of the week with kids and stuff, since I share custody with their dad. So the nights I don't have them, I usually, but yes, it's for like in that time I did like a long run on the treadmill, and Pete's the king of running on the treadmill, but because it snows sometimes, like it doesn't, if it snows and it doesn't get plowed right away, it's like sketchy to run out there and you don't want to slip on ice. So we have a treadmill in the garage to run on. And then like I've done like the kids are home. I'm running 26 miles on the treadmill and they want to play in the snow, but luckily I can watch them play and run at the same time. If they need me, I can jump off any second. So, and then after that, take them to birthday parties and etc. Be mom. They don't care that you're tired. So,
Not really, that's for sure. Do you have any, there's a lot of discussion in the running community about run slow, run hard, the different approaches to heart rate management and intensity. Your sort of latest feeling about that improves your aerobic capacity.
Well, for me, like I just kind of run how I feel, unless it's like a specific workout, like if it's a speed session day, or I try to have my long runs be somewhat of a workout in it. But the rest of the time, I'm just how I feel. My heart rate, I don't really keep track of that too much. Like today, I ran, my legs are shot since I ran up Eldon Lookout Hill, like the road, and coming down I'm so sore. So this morning was very slow. So and for me, it's like recovery is the hardest with running around kids, and I don't get to sit that often when I'm up and moving. So I usually just go based off feel because some people feel like they have to race every training run. I'm like, you don't need to. You just go based off how you're feeling that day, unless it's designed to be a workout.
Yeah, I do think that it's really interesting because for all the perfect that we can put in, we've seen actually even this Olympics, the 1500, this guy, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, who is the world record holder.
Mhm.
They do some of the hardest workouts that are known to runners, and yet he came in fourth in the 1500. So sometimes it's not even predictable what's going to become the outcome.
No. Yeah, you don't know. It's well, and especially the 1500, those races are just so tight and you never know how they're gonna come. Like he took it from the lead, which is kind of gutsy because usually if you're leading the 1500 or 800, you might not win because you just put all your energy setting the pace. And I think between him and Josh Kerr, the egos may have gotten in their way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. Which is good and comes back to sort of a little bit of everything right, and then there's some other uncontrollable inside our biological and chemical system that just didn't work that day. We would
Well, it's
call
hard
it.
to be like the stars have to align on that day. And you have to hit a home run. So, and it's hard to like the Olympics, you get one shot every 4 years, and hopefully it aligns for you to
Yeah,
win it.
right.
So
How do you feel about women's track in the US? How's improving?
I think it's improving. The men have done wonderful so far in the distance events. I'm hoping the women, because we still got the 1500 final, the 5K final, and the 10K and the marathon. So hopefully they do well, especially if like they got good momentum from the men's side. So usually that kind of follows suit. But I think Grant Fisher's like kind of set the standard and everyone's done. Yeah, it's been fun to watch. So it's like I think the women have a chance to do well as like the men. So just drives off each other.
Women's running in the US generally getting more interest, improving overall from when you started?
I think so, yes. I know the high school times are a lot faster than I was in high school. The girls are running so fast. Like I was a sub 5 miler, but now those girls are like well under 5. And like I was able to win like my senior year, I think, in cross country, I won by like 90 seconds, but I think they're a lot closer now. And like the 2 mile times are a lot faster. And like to even, I think, score, like win the 800s, like 210 or something for the women for the high school level. And then like college, it's like 7 2 minutes.
Crazy.
Crazy.
Times that we would never have imagined happened so quickly.
Yeah, and I know some people argue with the shoes, like carbon shoes, because like now they have those dragonflies carbon plated. So I know high school shoe like kids are wearing those, college, obviously, and professionals. So people argue with the shoes, but it's like also like this is more information about like training, recovery, etc. It's like it's not just the shoes. I think it's just the whole. There's more science behind running. So
Hmm.
it's getting faster in general. Like I ran a 240 in trainers and I still ran a 240 in fast shoes. So it's like I ran the same times. Or like I had the alpha flies, I PI 45 seconds. Like I don't for me it didn't make that big of a difference.
Right.
But I think it kept my legs fresher longer is my for me, that's how I felt. And like I did the 50K in carbon shoes and my knee and foot were very angry the last 12 miles of that race.
Oh, it's a long time.
Yes. So
I think I haven't run any of the carbon plate shoes. I think there's a lot of sort of debate about is it for training or is it for racing? And how good do you really have to be to notice a difference? Because the regular average runner probably wouldn't notice enough of a difference.
yeah, I think it's like it has to be a pace Like if you're going like a 9 minute pace, I don't think it's gonna make it faster. Like I know people work out in them, but I had issues working out in them all the time. Like my arch does not like it. And like I think it's like you can bust those out for like big workouts that you need to hit times, but I don't think you need to live in them like some people. Like I had a former teammate, I used to joke that he just lives in like his alpha flies, like no matter what he's doing. So
If you were talking to your younger self, what would you be telling yourself differently than maybe you were thinking as you were growing through your running years and growing up?
my younger self, well, I tell myself that running's gonna be a lot more challenging and it's not gonna be as easy it was like in high school. That was so effortless. Like and then yeah, this more fighting. Sorry, my things are beeping on you. But yeah, it was gonna be a challenge and you're gonna have to fight for what you wanna do in the long run. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like I was like I feel like I missed a lot of like my prime running years because I had children, but also with distance running, women have been proving that they've been running faster in older age, which is nice to have that. And like especially if you continue longer distances, like people have been proving you can still be really fast as you get older.
That which is what you get to think about now, right? So now, without necessarily trying to reveal your age, but over the next 10 to 20 years, I mean, this is a time that, I mean, it can be really competitive. It can be fun. You can keep going. There's nothing in your way, really, other than time. How do you feel about, well, now you're getting up to 100-mile distance in a week. That's a lot. You're going to go the JFK 50 route. You're going to probably do some other races and try and be competitive and compete. Do you think that's sort of going to be the way for a while, or just casual at some point? You're always going to compete for the top spot.
Yeah, I think eventually I'll get to the casual, but right now, like, because I've missed so many years between the young children and like injuries and health issues, I kind of want to like give it a crack for at least a few more years. So, because I'm going to be 30, I don't care if people know my age, I'm in September, so I still definitely have a few good years left.
Yeah, oh, I think that I mean, maybe there's a few things that where you truly can only peak in your 20s, but for the most part, some of the stuff we can, with a little bit of foundation, can really keep moving into our mid 30s and into mid 40s, even be very competitive. This is exciting. Do you have
Mhm.
any races that you would love to go do over the next 2 to 3 years that are on the bucket list?
I don't know, like eventually, like I've gotten to the pro field at Boston, but never made it to the starting line because
Mhm.
of health stuff or an injury. So I wouldn't mind just doing that and like be in the pro field for that. Knockout solid marathon PR would be good. I don't know, maybe some other ultras, but I haven't really picked anything. So JFK seemed intriguing because if you can be smart the first 16 miles, it's smooth sailing after that.
Is there 100 in your future?
I think eventually, yes. I don't know when or where. More like road. Trail, I'm not a big fan on that. So like I can do a little bit of trail, but not technical.
Yeah,
So
you'll do Tunnel Hill or Hennepin 100 or something like that.
yeah, we'll see.
I was running Tunnel Hill. I think in 2019, Pete was running that year as well. I think he might have come in third or something like that. But that's a fast course. It's just the crushed, whatever that road surfaces that they put on these rail trails. It's great.
Yeah.
You can really move along. And as and so equipment has changed, training's changed. Given that you had a bunch of different issues, have you thought about how nutrition is different for you as you go through racing?
For racing, well, like just for normal day-to-day living, I just try to eat the healthiest I can. I don't obsess usually over it. You try not to eat junk. I do have a bad sugar tooth.
Yeah.
I love like cookies, ice cream, all that candy. So I try to stay away, especially during the holiday season. You can get yourself into trouble. But running like for the 50K, all I kind of did different was to make sure I like eat real food instead of like just gels. So I had like chews and like I ate paydays during it. Got that from Pete and then Mike and Ike's. But that was
Yeah.
hard because they were cold, so that you couldn't chew them.
Yeah. We always said it's like Pete and Dave, who Pete is the record in the US and Dave in Canada. I love their line, which is that long distance running is an eating contest more than a running contest. Because you got to get the nutrition inside you. And if you can, then you have a possibility of performing to your best degree. So those guys seem to know how to eat anything as they move along.
Yes, no. They eat like sandwiches or whatever, like drinking like Ensure, which has like dairy in it. It's like that usually will just turn in your stomach for some people. But yeah, they just eat whatever. I know
Yeah.
I did like cookies and Rice Krispie treats during my training runs, the 50K build up, trying to just get practice, and it's a good excuse to eat cookies. So
Hey, I think there's a point where I'm just like desperate for any calories. So if it's cookies, then I'm gonna work my way into them for sure. I don't remember, oh gosh, it was one of the top female ultra runners probably 5 or 6 years ago from Northern Europe. And she said, in my entire running career, before and after a race, I had never eaten Doritos. She said, for one entire race, that's all I ate was Doritos. Got me to the finish line. So I figure that was good for that day. And it's sort of funny in that some days we like something and don't like it another day. Uh,
yep.
Unpredictable in this ultra running world.
Yeah, no, I know the kids like to joke. I'm like, you're eating like candy. Or like Pete had like a bag of candy and like Pete just eats candy on his runs. Like, so I was like, well, you need the sugar and stuff. So they just think he just like runs a lot and eats candy.
That's it. Maybe some people do it so they could eat pizza, but it's part of that journey. As a person who, and I think it's fantastic that you have your children, to anyone, females in the running world who are thinking of it, any advice for them as to how they get through it, manage through it from what you,
Well, I guess everyone's situation is different. I didn't have a ton of support when the kids were younger. I was kind of just like on my own. I got more support when I moved away from family, which is
Hmm.
weird. So I think if they have support, that's going to be huge. They can have like a grandparent watch their child or something, and if they have a spouse who's actually supportive for that. So for my situation, it will get easier as the kids get older. So that's like the biggest thing. So if I had more support, like I think I could have made the 2016 trials in the marathon, because I even lived with grandparents and they didn't bother helping me with my daughter. I had a nice lady who would babysit her so I could go for a run. And then once I moved up here, she was old enough to go to the gym daycare.
oh,
And the gym daycare actually helped me tremendously because it usually got 2 hours. So for the marathon buildup, I'm like, I'm gonna need more than 2 hours for like my long run, a 20 plus. And they're like, okay. So I worked out a thing and they all knew what I was trying to do. So they helped me tremendously. And like they didn't have to. And
hmm.
Trina Painter watched my kids when Cedar was not young. He was too young to go to the gym daycare. So she used to watch him. So I think you just have to like people's like it takes a village, but usually that village you have to go find in other places
Yeah.
if family's not immediately going to help you.
Yeah, I think it's really important because I do think that the female running community, especially the ultra running world in the US, has gotten some really amazing women in it. And we want to be able to support and celebrate that. The more
Mhm.
that we can integrate our lives with our activities, the better.
Yes, no, I think so too. Because I know like each, obviously, women's situation's different.
Yeah.
So they just have to embrace what they have and hopefully it goes well for them.
Do you see them becoming runners at some point? Are they?
So my daughter is a really good rock climber. She's on
Hmm.
the advanced team in Flagstaff at a young age. They invited her to join the junior team at 7, and usually had to be 9 to join. And she's moved up past junior now on advanced team. So she does top rope, lead climbing, bouldering, all that crazy stuff. She can ski black diamond runs. She's 9.
Wow.
So she's kind of like in that daredevil area. My son, he hasn't really found his niche yet, so maybe I can get a runner. I told Peyton like you have the runner stiffness, but it's there. She has my like genes, like my dad, my mom are very like the runners. Like it's hard to struggle to touch your toes, and she already has that. I was like, Peyton, you'll be a good runner. She's like, I don't want to run. I'm like, maybe we'll see. She's still young, so
Yeah.
she'll be 10 next week. So
Yeah.
and Cedar's he just turned 7, so we'll see.
Olympic dreams can hold off for a little while.
They're still little, and running you kind of want to start that later in life because they're still growing. You don't want to mess up their bones and joints and stuff.
Yeah. No, no. Yeah, totally agree. French toast is your favorite. Is that true too?
I do like French toast.
He's like pancakes or French toast. I'm like, I want both. So
Yeah, I usually if there was an option between French toast or pancakes, I go with French toast. A lot of like posts like long runs, I do breakfast burritos. Those
yeah,
are clutch.
benefits, right? We get to eat a little bit more. Sometimes
Mhm.
I find that the more I run, the less I eat. It's just like completely upside down.
Yeah.
Much
It's
better.
hard when you're like doing a build up and you're like hungry all the time and then you are stopped to like take a few weeks off, but you're still wanting to eat the same amount. But it's like I'm not even running. So it's like you're just like craving all that food.
I know, I know. Have you done the any of the Grand Canyon stuff since you live close by?
No, I want to. So I had a hard time getting away from the kids at all. So I haven't been actually that far down in the canyon. So I love to eventually do rim like back and forth. So hopefully one day I can do that. I know me and Pete have talked about doing the Kokanee Cowboys like loop. It's like 20 something miles. That's
Yep.
so we'll see. Yeah, I definitely want to do that. I done Humphreys times, so hiked that.
Yeah, if everyone doesn't know, that's the highest peak in Arizona,
Mhm.
and the Grand Canyon is very close to Flagstaff.
About 90 minutes away from my house.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. Yeah, it's a funny thing because people don't realize that there are mountains in Arizona.
Yeah, and we get snow in a lot of it. Like I know one year we've got people like talk about Buffalo, like, well, we got more snow than Buffalo, but no one's talking about us. Like our ski resort stayed open until June this year. Like you
Wow.
can ski in Arizona in June. Like no one thinks that.
Okay. I'm probably not sure I knew that. I worked in the area for a while. We used to go up. It's a great thing. It's like you go from the desert to the mountains, like, oh,
Mhm. It's like a 2 hour drive. It's a big difference. So Arizona is very diverse in its landscaping.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's amazing. And so the Chasing Tomorrow podcast was always about this sort of like what we lean into the future. And so if I was to say, Lindsay, what's your chasing tomorrow? What would you say?
Chasing tomorrow, hopefully to keep improving in my races and especially when I flirt with longer distances and hopefully it keeps going well. Like I got knocked out of a huge 50K, like that's like all time lists and it should get me on the world team for the 50K. So hopefully just continue in the right direction with running and hopefully I can requalify for the trials in 2028, even though I'll be a little bit older, but we'll see.
Ah, yeah, yeah. What's the qualifying time?
237 flat for the 2024. So they dropped to 8 minutes. So I had a PR by like 90 seconds to get it, which I think it's doable because my 50K, I split a 240, which is like 3 minutes off the old trials record qualifying time, but that's also a 50K and I was by myself the entire race. So
Amazing. Well, I appreciate you sharing the high performance journey with a bit of the struggle, how you figure out to work your way through that and still maintain a good positive attitude. You have, let's see, at least another 60 years to go. So I guess there's a lot. We'll get you to 95, at least, right? And I think it's great because look, the truth of the matter is that we all have whatever it is, our struggle, but if we keep a good attitude and pointing forward, seems
mhm.
be good for all of us, including us, right?
Yes, no, it does.
Well, I wish you the best on the JFK 50, and we'll see how that goes. And maybe we'll go out for a run one day in Flagstaff, but we'll have to go nice and slowly.
No, it's totally fine. Like I think my run was like for me, like slow is like 8:30
Nice.
struggle bus for me this morning. So
All right. Perfect. Thanks again for being on with me. I really appreciate it.
awesome. Thank you.